welcome to the deep dive. So you've sent over some info, looks like excerpts from a PDF about a tech training program.
Right?
And our goal today really is to dig into this, kind of pull out the important bits so you can get a quick handle on what it offers, potential benefits.
Okay.
We really want to look at the structure, that hands-on experience they promise, and, well, ultimately the career value. So, yeah, let's unpack this.
Okay, well, the first thing that jumps out, I think, is the intensity. 45 days on location,
Yeah.
10 a.m. to 6 p.m. I mean, that signals a pretty immersive experience, doesn't it?
Definitely.
It's not just like a casual course. It feels like a full-on commitment.
It really does. A big chunk of time. But the document does highlight some things that might make it worth it. They start right off with hands-on experience using live projects.
Which is huge.
Always a big draw, right?
Why do you think that focus on live projects is so, well, critical?
Well, it's because unlike just theory, right?
Yeah.
Live projects, they throw you into those kind of messy situations you actually find on the job.
Okay.
You have to deal with things not being clear, unexpected problems popping up. And that's where the real learning happens, I think. You build that problem-solving skill.
Makes sense.
And then they mention a Scrum-based Agile environment with daily stand-ups. Maybe you could break that down a bit. Why is that valuable in training?
Sure. So think of Agile as like a flexible way to manage projects. You work in short bursts, you adapt quickly based on feedback.
Right.
And Scrum is just a specific way to do Agile. It uses regular meetings, these daily stand-ups basically, to keep the team connected, know what everyone's doing. Lots of tech teams work this way now.
So it's practical.
Exactly. And this program also mentions collaborating directly with SMEs, subject matter experts, and product owners. That exposure sounds pretty valuable.
Oh, definitely. You're not just learning code in a vacuum. You're getting context from people with experience, from the people defining the what and why.
A bigger picture.
Yeah, invaluable insights. Plus, they promise certification when you finish, a credential.
Always good. And they specifically call out deployment training for production environments. That's interesting. Why is that maybe a step some programs skip, and why is it important?
Good question. Often training hits the development part hard, but maybe less on actually getting the software, live.
Right, pushing it out.
Yeah. But knowing how to deploy to get your work out to users, that's a critical skill. That's kind of the last mile. So it's great they include it.
Okay.
All right. So those are the sort of initial highlights. Let's get into the program structure a bit more. What does a day look like? Because it seems like 10 to 6 is just part of it.
Yeah, it looks like it. They mentioned Scrum calls happening earlier, 9:15 to 11:15 a.m., and these are led by Scrum Masters. What's the deal with having dedicated Scrum Masters?
Well, Scrum Master is kind of like the coach for the process.
Sure.
Their job is to make sure the team sticks to the Agile practices, planning the work cycles called sprints, running those daily meetings well, and crucially, helping remove any obstacles, any blockers. Yeah. So dedicating 2 hours to that suggests they're taking the methodology pretty seriously.
It does. And then there's this SME collaboration time evenings, 7 to 9 p.m., alternate days or weekends based on requests. That sounds like quite a bit of access to help.
It does, yeah. It suggests they're really trying to offer support beyond just the core hours. And the team structure is interesting, too. 3 to 5 people per team working on these innovative real-world projects. That size feels pretty good for collaboration, right? Not too big, not too small.
Yeah, seems about right. And this other bit, nominating Scrum Masters from within the group after a month, that's an interesting leadership angle.
It is. What do you see as the pros and cons there?
Well, the pro is definitely empowering people, letting them step up and lead, and having someone guide the process who actually knows the team's dynamics.
Okay.
The challenge, I guess, might be the learning curve for someone new to that role, but still seems like a valuable growth opportunity.
Yeah, I agree. And it's fascinating how they're building this whole mini Agile world. Daily Scrum sprints, those work cycles we mentioned, and explicitly talking about blockers handling.
Right.
And the tools, Bitbucket, Jira, Jenkins, cloud platforms, these are like industry standard things. Bitbucket for code management, Jira for tracking tasks, Jenkins for automation. Why use these specific tools?
Because that's what you'll likely use in a real job.
Exactly.
You're not just learning concepts, you're getting your hands dirty with the actual software developers use day to day. It bridges that gap between theory and practice.
Makes perfect sense. Okay, let's dive into these innovative live projects more because they seem really central.
Yeah, they really push that angle.
They stress these aren't just exercises, but they simulate real-world scenarios and match current trends. So Beyond just learning the tech, what different kinds of thinking might you develop working on, say, an AI data tool versus a mobile app?
Interesting question. With an AI tool, you probably sharpen your analytical skills, right? How to interpret data, understand algorithms. A mobile app, maybe more focus on the user experience, the interface design, how different parts talk to each other.
Right, the APIs and stuff.
Exactly. Both would build teamwork, breaking down problems. But the specific focus differs, gives you a broader skill set if you touch different types.
And they give examples, which helps. A web app with Spring Boot and MySQL,
Uh-huh.
an Android app using PHP or Java REST APIs,
Yeah,
and working on AI data analysis tools, cloud services. These are definitely hot areas right now.
no doubt. Very relevant stuff.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Really shows a focus on skills people are actually hiring for. Now let's switch gears to certification. Looks like there are two kinds.
Yeah, it seems so. One for completing the whole 45-day program, and then maybe separate ones for monthly courses.
Okay. And the document makes a point about endorsements from industry experts. How much does that usually matter?
It can add definite weight. If respected people in the field vouch for a program, it signals to employers that the training is, relevant and meets a certain standard.
Gives it credibility.
Exactly. And they list the specific skills the main certification covers. Java Core, Spring Boot, MySQL, Android development with REST APIs, Agile practices. That's a pretty solid list.
Yeah, seems quite marketable. For someone starting out, why are those particular skills so useful?
Well, they're kind of foundational, really. Java and Spring Boot are huge for building the back end of applications. MySQL is a super common database.
Yeah.
Android for mobile is obvious, and we already talked about why Agile is important for teamwork, so it covers a lot of bases.
And they hammer home the real-world value, adding credibility to resumes, LinkedIn, helping get jobs because you have practical knowledge. That's the goal.
That's the bottom line for most people, yeah.
And this part of the certification includes a summary of live projects completed. That feels pretty impactful. Why?
Because it's proof. A certificate saying you just attended is one thing, but
Right.
one that lists the actual projects you built. That's like a mini portfolio right there. It shows employers you can actually do the work, not just
Yeah.
talk about it.
Concrete evidence.
Precisely. Now, there is this section on pricing and contact info, but
Yeah, I saw that. The classic lorem ipsum placeholder text.
Right. So unfortunately, no actual cost details in what we have here.
Shame. But, okay, if someone is interested despite not knowing the price yet, what's the next step?
Well, they do give clear contact details, thankfully.
Right?
FrienchTech Private Limited, there's a full address in Bhopal, India, a website, www.frenchtech.com, and a couple of phone numbers.
Okay, so you can reach out directly.
Yeah, multiple ways to ask about pricing or anything else.
And I noticed that little thanks for attending our webinar message at the end. With a typo in, thanks, but still.
Huh, yeah.
It suggests this info might have come from a webinar.
That's a good catch. Webinars often have more detail, maybe even demos. So if they have recordings or run them again, that could be useful.
Worth looking into. Okay, so let's try and wrap this up for the listener. What are the main takeaways?
Well, it seems like a very intensive hands-on program focused on current tech.
Right, the live projects, the agile environment, those seem to be the pillars.
Definitely. And the certification aims to give you that tangible proof of skills, linking back to the projects you did.
Which adds real value.
Yeah, the whole package, the structured learning, the practical application through projects, collaborating with experts. It really seems designed to accelerate learning and bridge that gap from theory to being job ready.
So maybe a final thought for you, the listener, to chew on.
Mm-hmm.
Given how much they stress these real-world projects and the whole agile way of working, how could doing something like this boost not just your tech skills, but also maybe your adaptability, your teamwork, skills that are crucial in tech today?
Good point.
And perhaps think about which of those project examples they mentioned, the web app, the Android app, the AI stuff, the cloud. Which one kind of sparks your interest most right now, and why?
Yeah, thinking about what excites you personally is important. It helps you ask better questions if you do reach out.
Connects it back to your own goals.
Exactly. Makes the potential benefits much clearer for you.